When I was at university, when I was 17 or 18, up in Glasgow, I started importing hair straighteners from China,
Right.
and I was selling them on eBay. And from there, I kind of got the e-commerce bug. I never went to class at all. I was turning up at the post office with mail bags
Yep.
full of hair straighteners. Mathematics class went, I think, 1 out of 48 of them, and still managed to pass. So I did that for instead of doing the sort of bar job at uni.
Yep.
That's what I did, and that's where I learned about e-commerce basics. And of course, as you do, you go to uni, you have to finish your degree, and then you get a job in your degree field. So I got a job working in the oil industry. So I was working in the oil industry for about 7 or 8 years for a big subsea drilling company. So it was great. I lived in the US, I lived in Norway, many different places, got to travel. So that was good, and I had the best experience working in a large multinational firm. You work with really good people, you work with different types of people, and you kind of take the best bits of points and move on. But I always had that sort of urge to go back to entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And that was where I decided, okay, I want to try and start up. So I decided to start up a website that just resold products. So there's a few big ones in the UK owned by people like the Hut Group that I saw and looked at, and they resold products from Procter & Gamble, from Unilever, different big brands like that. So we got them in, built a website, bought 3,000 SKU units
Yep.
in, and decided to make a site and try and write 2,000 product descriptions myself. It was brutal. Anyway, so we did that for a while I was still working in the oil industry, and eventually moved away from oil fully.
Right.
And got into what kind of started off this.
And when did you align yourself with Amazon and get involved with them? When was that?
So we started off, the website that I built was in about 2012, and probably in about 2014 we started to see the strengths of Amazon. So we were one of the early Amazon adopters kind of in the FBA community. So that was good. Back then it was a lot easier. There wasn't so much competition.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked around quite a few entrepreneurs, and most of them can pinpoint a moment in their life when the stars were aligned and everything went in the right direction. Have you got that moment in your life when you realised that the business was going to grow significantly?
I genuinely think probably so if you think about it, we used to buy some hair products and like a L'Oreal hair gel, for example, and we would sell it, and we would sell like 6 a day. Great. We went and listed some products on Amazon that we made ourselves, private label ones, and they sold like 500 in a week with one image and a small title.
Yep.
And that was that. And I was like, whoa, where did this come from? And that's where we sort of saw the power of what the marketplace.
And is that when you came up with the brand Bold Unique?
So I started off, the journey's quite interesting actually. So we started off working with our manufacturer, just making like simple hair products with the most basic design you could think of, like literally designed in word art or paint. Like they were horrific, but we put them on and they sold and they did well. And we kind of just sort of followed trends in the beauty industry. So we did some argan oils, then we did some teeth whitening stuff, and we did different products that would sort of generate cash flow. But I realized that these would go great for like 6 months and then they would crash. So I needed to build a brand. So I first of all, actually, I don't even know if you know this, but no, you do know this. We had the brand Benjamin Bernard. So we built a beard oil because beards were popular into sort of 2016, and we decided that okay, let's actually put some effort into this. Let's make really nice packaging. Let's make a box. Let's put some like cool little like leaflets in it with instructions on how to use it, etc. And from there. That did really well. We used the Amazon Pan-European program to sell in France, Germany, Spain, Italy, UK of course, and really expand that way. So we were fortunate that was kind of probably a right place, right time.
Yep.
And we had this one flagship product. I think a lot of companies probably have that, 1 or 2 flagships, the 80-20 rule. But I realized from my previous learnings, I need to do more, because if a business isn't evolving, it's dying, as you know, as they say.
Yep.
So we decided to do a beard shampoo and some hairstyling products, skincare, kind of things like that would allow us to grow that brand out.
Yep.
And that did really well. We became the #1 best-selling beard oil on Amazon in Germany for a good few years. And I think we did a great job just because we kind of focused on branding and focused on the customer.
Yeah.
So that was our sort of first foray into, okay, this is how a brand can be built.
Yeah. And did you make a conscious decision to focus on one particular sector of products? Because sometimes I think businesses stumble if they spread themselves too thin, really?
Yeah, so we had a great manufacturer for anything hair or beauty, orientated. And we worked with that manufacturer over time. We managed to build good terms with them, good relationships with them,
Yep.
and that allowed us to kind of be at the forefront of what was coming next in the industry. But probably the main thing, which I didn't think about at the beginning, but it was sort of unforeseen benefit, was when you sell a consumable product like a hair product or a beard product, if people like it, they'll come back. So if you go and spend money on marketing in the first place to acquire them, you've kind of hopefully got them, and you can expand on that. So consumables was something that I was a really big fan of.
Yeah. That sort of repeat customer is a key thing, isn't it? Because it just keeps the revenue ticking along.
Yeah, and that was when we went to sell the business. That was something that a lot of potential buyers were very warm on.
So, what about expanding markets? You talked about Europe. How did moving into the US and that side of things work for you?
Yeah, so Amazon facilitate movement into different marketplaces fairly well. So that was good. But I knew that if we wanted to take the brand to the next level, we needed to go over to the US and really target that market. And that was kind of what gave us our next step up the ladder to take the business onto a much larger scale.
Because during COVID in particular, some of the businesses I've worked with were struggling with their supply chain, but you had your own, almost your own supply chain, didn't you? Really?
Yeah, so it was something that I identified really when COVID in March 2020. I was looking around. I was talking to people. I was hearing that people in the beauty industry were struggling to get components or bottles or pumps from their Chinese suppliers. And at that point, I thought this could be really, really prolonged. Fortunately, we ran the business quite in a very safe manner. We always made sure that we had enough cushion in the bank, for a cash cushion in the bank, for us to see through rainy days. And then I think that's the biggest bit of advice I can give to any young entrepreneur is don't run the red line all the time, because there will be rainy days, absolutely no doubt about it. And you want to be able to go to sleep at night, wake up the next day, and if there's a problem, you know that you can still pay off all your rent, your rates, your staff's wages and things like that. And I think that's important. If you employ someone, you have to also give back the assurance that you'll take care of them as well. So
absolutely. So when you set up the business, did you set it up with the intention of it being a fulfillment by Amazon business, or did it just evolve that way? How did it come about?
Not at all, no. We set it up with having the plan to have our own warehouse and our own warehouse staff, and just do fulfillment directly from our warehouse. But with the power of Amazon, as things evolved, we went FBA all in.
Yeah, okay. And did you set the business up with the intention of going for an exit, or is that just being a bag product?
Absolutely not at all.
No.
I did it just out of pure passion, and I really enjoyed e-commerce and digital marketing. But as things got bigger, and we built this amazing brand, Bold Unique, I saw that we were actually punching with the big, multinational firms, and we were able to compete with them. And at that point, I realised that there was a possibility for an exit, and that's where I started working with Progeny. Yeah,
and I think we were originally introduced by Northbound. How did they help you get to that point? Did they?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're an entrepreneur and you have all these dashboards for your online sales, you know what your margin is, you know what your overheads are. You don't really need to spend all the time doing your monthly management accounts. You could do, but for me personally, I was like, I'm going to focus my time on digital marketing and try and improve sales. So when I started working with Northbound Group, they said, give me your books. And I said, well, here's my annual accounts. We made that much money last year. That doesn't work. So they really helped me prepare for the sale. They knew what buyers would look for when analysing your company and going through diligence. So I spent a lot of time with them making a package together that would be presentable and understandable for prospective buyers.
And over the last sort of few years, so what's been your sort of biggest challenge and biggest triumph, do you think?
I would say the biggest challenge really is operating a business as a solo entrepreneur. You need to make sure that you have good funds in the bank, make sure that you run the business efficiently and responsibly, make sure that you make decisions when maybe purchasing a large stock order or going into a new type of advertising, that you have the sufficient cash funds to invest in that, but it's not going to bring the business to its knees if it goes wrong.
Yep.
I call it calculated gambling.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
had a lot of calculated gambling that goes wrong,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a lot of calculated gambling that's worked out well.
Yeah.
And I think as long as you do your homework and you make sure you're safe in the background, you can sleep well, and you can make sure that you know have a good outcome.
Yep. And triumphs?
Triumphs, I would say, was probably putting everything together, from building small products to building our men's brand to actually building this huge multinational brand, Bold Unique, was really exciting. It was really cool to search for our keywords on Amazon and seeing us ranking above some major players, which was really exciting. It's not something I could ever have imagined doing when I started up this business.
And as far as like looking at what you spent your money on in developing the business, was marketing a huge chunk of that spend? Or
yeah. Absolutely, and we made sure that we built a brand that was high end and premium, so that we had a lot of space for marketing budget within every sale. So if you think about it, if this is zero and we bought at this, we tried to sell here, and we would easily happily spend 50% of the sales price or more on marketing, and that allowed us to go out and compete against other companies who were in the race to the bottom game. That was not what we did. We made sure that we made a fantastic product that was with recycled packaging, eco-friendly ingredients, 100% money-back guarantees, all these things that good consumers would be interested in. And we made sure that we tried to do things a bit differently than other big brands, and we made sure that we focused on every single customer. We gave them what we wanted. If they wanted a refund, we gave them a refund. If they wanted a different product, we gave them a different product, because your reputation's everything, especially on online reviews and the way people talk about you across social media and YouTube. You need to make sure that you do as best job as possible in making the customer happy.